All right, this is OneLastMidnight. Welcome back to another episode of Astroneer. A couple weeks back, System Era had a live stream in which they asked the community what could they add to Astroneer to make the game last longer. Not necessarily the gameplay, but have some sort of longevity in the market. What could they do to make the game last longer? I wasn't on that live stream. It's unfortunate. I didn't know that they were going to be doing that type of live stream. Otherwise, I would have made sure that I was there. So I asked the community for a bunch of feedback for those of you that were not able to make that live stream. And then also I have a bunch of ideas as well that I want to share to System Era. So System Era, this is a message to you. For all those people who didn't get a chance to say something on your live stream, but who were able to reach out to me to express their ideas. So here we go. Number one for me is configurable starts. Now, if you don't change the gameplay at all, how do you continue to have a new game or make this experience of Astroneer exciting, fresh to people who have played for a long time? Well, I've been running challenges. That's the way that I've tried to keep Astroneer fresh for me. But I think an easier way to accomplish this would be have some sort of configurable start where I can configure the amount of power that is coming through plus or minus, the amount of resources plus or minus, the population of hazardous plants plus or minus, whatever can be configurable, make it configurable. So I can make it incredibly impossible for me or incredibly easy for me. Doesn't really matter. But with saying that, I don't want to be penalized by not being able to get achievements because I've made the game harder for me. I think that if you give these sliders for configurable start, you should at the very least allow people to be able to get their achievements if they've made it harder, not necessarily easier. The configurable start allows for a ton of different combinations that you can start with in Astroneer, which makes the game new, different, and interesting every time you play it. You know, one of the cool uses of that configurable start would be to tie it into the endgame solution. You know, this is a spoiler, so if you guys don't want to hear spoilers, skip ahead like a minute or something. So in the endgame solution, there's some sort of portal. It'd be great if you walk through the portal, and what happens is that you get a random configuration on the game. Wouldn't that be a really cool idea? You can use the new system of configurable start to produce some sort of random solution, and then the game is never ending. Brilliant. When you add on Gina's idea of also the configurable research catalog, being able to shut on and off specific printable items, then you make the game even more interesting. So if you implement this right now, you can increase the longevity of your game and the interest of your game just by allowing people to configure different starts for themselves. I mean, this should be top priority for you guys. My number two would have to be more base building components. A vast diversity of base building and or functional building pieces. Right now, it's just too limited. Now, you've kind of shot yourself in the foot with the diegetic interface. So honestly, there needs to be some thought put into how to print differently. And take a page from Minecraft, where you've got a crafting station with 9 slots, and you can build anything you want to build within the game. Now, this could be done with, I don't know, some sort of pop-up interface on the printer where I'm selecting what resources I'm putting into the printer so that I can print my item, and have everything hidden to make it more of type of a adventure of figuring out what the recipes are to build something. This also would help with the recipe complexity, because currently right now it's not complex enough. There are way too many resources and there's not enough stuff to build, nor are the items that we're currently building use enough resources to justify having that many resources. So making the recipes more complex, requiring significantly more items, and also the granularity of building. Instead of building an entire vehicle, you build the vehicle in parts which would increase the longevity of the base building component of this game. My number 3 is story. Story. There is an incredible lack of lore to the game. Yes, there is some little minor story that happens, but there's no overlying story to the entire game of Astroneer. Now, I understand you're claiming it's a sandbox game. Well, I have a problem with that because sandbox games have no survival mechanics to them. It would be great to have a story-rich environment. Why am I there? What am I doing there? What's the purpose of me being there? Or to have some story-driven goals associated to it. I know we're getting outside of the idea and concept of a sandbox game. But it would be nice to have some sort of, guidance to the whys of everything of Astroneer. My number 4 would be improve sculpting for several reasons. If you look at Minecraft back in the early days, really what was appealing about Minecraft is you had these blocks and you could create really cool things. Unfortunately, there is a system in Astroneer that allows that, but it's in creative mode. And so that's great that have it in creative mode, but it would be even better to have it in survival mode. And I would think because of the current mechanism of having mods, that we should be able to have super wide mods or super narrow mods, or mods that would extend the distance, or mods that would either increase or decrease the deformation. So, I would think that there should be a way to be able to get sculpting in for people who want to create those really cool structures, but have it also be inside of survival mode. The other part of improving sculpting is just being able to create really cool base designs. And so, everybody says true flat. There needs to be a better mechanism inside of survival to allow for that. Whether it is putting down some sort of platform so that we have a floor, an actual floor, or, allowing to be able to sculpt a really flat surface so that we can create walls and floors and whatnot. I think too much time is actually being spent on true flat, where I think that time would be better served in being able to create some sort of walls or flooring. My number 5 would be durability. And so there's a ton of resources. There's so many resources. It almost defeats the purpose in getting more resources. Resources are way too easy to obtain. So there needs to be a reason for those resources. And I would think durability would be a great way to use some of those resources up. I build an item, I can only use an item so many times, and then I have to rebuild that item again. Allowing for me to use those overabundant resources for them to have some sort of purpose other than just being there. My number 6, and the biggest, is modding. Look, if you look at any of the games that have serious longevity, it's because they've added in modding. We understand that you guys are busy either fixing defects or trying to add some new functionality into the game, and you don't have time to work on pieces of content. Modding allows for that. Modding allows for the community to be able to build and add to your game. And you might just find a gem in the modding community that says, hey, look, I'm going to pay for that and get it into the game. It frees up your time having to focus on creating content and allowing the community to create really cool stuff. I would think modding would be something that you're focusing on right now. Because once you open up that modding door, the game never dies. People are always going to continue to keep building stuff onto it. So while you have said in the past that modding was something very difficult to do, that you didn't want to invest the time into it right now, I think it's absolutely critical that you put that time, effort, and energy into doing it. My number 7 would be some sort of questing system, or even some sort of collection system, like go and record all of the plants on a specific planet, or go and record all the hazards on a specific planet. or go and find all of the pieces of scrap. I would really like to have some sort of goal-based system in the game. Whether you call it a questing system, whether you call it a collection system, whether you call it whatever. But it would be nice to receive a message from Exodynamics saying, hey, look, go do this. Or maybe that is part of the main mission. The part of the reason of why you're there is to accomplish this, that, and the other thing. My number 8 is make the game more difficult. You know, I reloaded an old pre-alpha version, and it was in Terrain 1.0. And, you know, I was amazed on how much I had forgotten how large the planets were and how difficult it was to get those initial resources. It seems like going to Terrain 2.0 and going all the way up to release, there's something that was lost. You know, there was a feel, there was an anxiety of, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to make it to the resource. You know, so there was that feeling of survival. There needs to be something added to the game to give it that survival feel again. You know, the game has been watered down to the point where, you know, it doesn't feel like any kind of survival game anymore. And if that's the truth, if that's what you're trying to get to, then eliminate oxygen, eliminate all hazards, just go to a pure sandbox game where there's no hazards or difficulties whatsoever. Otherwise, you've got to find some way to put survival back into your survival game. At the end of my recap video, I asked people to put in my Discord what their wish for Astroneer would be. Now, I wasn't specific on longevity, so most of these are additions to the current game, not necessarily something that would make it last forever, but wouldn't it be nice to have? So let me go through several of these. A proper way to align the base. So that goes to base building, grid concept, something where you could put down pieces and have it snap to some sort of grid. True flat for all of us. Honestly, I think flooring would do that, but there's still people who really want to have true flat system. Hard points on vehicles. I actually like this concept a lot. Being able to attach lights to the sides of a vehicle without having to take up that, you know, extra slot. There should be like little single attachment points on vehicles so that you could do something like that. First person while driving. Resource pipes or conveyor belts. Some sort of freighter ship or storage ship that you could put in space, and or even being able to fly around in space. Instead of clicking on a destination and flying there, just let me fly from one planet to another. Some way to earn qubits in the game. People want to see the hydrazine condenser come back. Believe it or not, there was several comments on that. Portable RTGs. I think that's a little OP, but large soil canisters. Medium soil canisters are fine, but wouldn't it be nice to have even more? Adding some sort of ability to be able to add signs into the game. Being able to type content, public use, or this is mine. I think that's a great idea. Absolutely needed, especially in multiplayer and on the dedicated server. DLCs for new solar systems, flora, plants, whatever. I agree. You want to continue to keep making money. I think a DLC system is something that people really want, but okay. Make beacons more useful beyond the horizontal navigation or line of sight navigation. A standalone backpack printer. I agree with that. Should be like an extra small printer or something. More girly themed item in the store. You know, you're 100% right. And I think that there should be more girl themed items in the store because a lot of girls do play this game. Some sort of mapping system or navigation system. Storms. I can't tell you how many times people have asked for storms back in the game. More things to do in space. I agree with that. Space should be something more than just a point to get from A to B, because right now space does nothing. It's almost as bad as a cutscene. Some sort of search bar for the catalog or any of the printers. More uses for Astronium, bigger planets. I 100% agree with this. Stop reducing the size of the planets. You have been slowly shrinking them, and don't think we didn't notice, because we absolutely do notice it. Go back to Terrain 1.0 size of the planets, because then that was actually exploration. There is no sense of getting lost anymore. Overhauls to the rover drilling, mining, paving system. The camera is beyond wonky. Needs to have more stability in the rover, so on and so forth. The implementation of some sort of Easter eggs. I just read this as more content. We need more content. Transportation of resources between one planet and another. I think I've said that before. Some sort of satellite that helps you perform various tasks like navigation or collecting resources in space. It's another idea to use space as something other than just to get from point A to point B. Game is too easy. Planets are too small. Needs to have more. More planets, more everything. Another comment on just needing more content. Yes, it's an exploration game, but there's not enough to explore. You need to put some meat behind that statement. You're going to say it's an exploration game? Then there better be a ton of things to explore. Hate seeing the junk broken down everywhere. Some ability to shut that off. Fix your defects. People complaining about not working on consoles, that it's just too laggy, beyond frustrating. Easier way to find home. Goes back to navigation, maybe a better compass system. More custom shuttles and rovers, maybe some animals or bugs that you can collect. Mouse and keyboard support for Xbox. An ability to be able to unload your backpack to some sort of storage or the ground. And a way to be able to rebuild some of those broken artifacts that you find all over every planet. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of things they can do to add to the game to make it more enjoyable and, you know, have additional little pieces to build. Ultimately, all of this comes down to is content. We need more content. We need more stuff to do. All right, so that was my video. My message to System Error. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We'd love to have you in the community. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, you can find the links in the description below, and make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you know when I go live and when I post new videos. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.